Back in the before times, I used to watch a ton of true crime. Started with Cops in the 90s, which was a gateway drug of the genre. Then Unsolved Mysteries. Rest in peace to the man, Robert Stack, by the way. And of course, America's Most Wanted, so on and so forth. But just when I thought I'd seen it all, the whole Netflix and podcast universe blew up. Now we enjoy a never-ending fire hose of true crime about Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and everybody else. It doesn't matter if we already know the story. There's always another angle to consider. Now, people often dismiss this genre as a morbid curiosity or maybe even disturbing behavior, but there's a lot more to it than that. Most of us are more interested in the human condition to consider, why do people do these things? What pushes people to the line of taking somebody else's life like this? And how should society deal with such people? But the true crime audience has also been fed a stereotype for many, many years, which says that white males are the primary culprits for such heinous crime. And of course, we all know about Wayne Williams, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and Eileen Warnes, but we mostly write them off as exceptions to the rule. But what if I told you the data tells a different story? Thanks for stopping by NPC Overrider, where we challenge mainstream source code to develop independent thought, one user story at a time. Grab the remote, and let's check out the latest programming. The hard data. Of course, there's good reason to think that all serial killers, or the vast majority, are white males. Through the 20th century, whites indeed held the title as the largest demographic. According to Radford University and Florida Gulf Coast University serial killer database, whites have historically made up about 52% of U.S. serial killers. But since 1990, black serial killers have accounted for about 51 to 57% of cases, while the great white male fell to 36% of responsibility. That's a massive switch, considering blacks make up about 13 to 14% of the population. So why don't we see this trend reflected in our true crime queue? The ignored monsters. Now, when you think about serial killers, the most prolific serial killers, who comes to mind? People like John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown. He was convicted of 33 murders between 1972 and 1978 in Chicagoland. Ted Bundy confessed to 30 murders, but many believe the number is much higher. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, claimed to kill 80 women, but law enforcement could only confirm 48. These are the MVPs of major league murder. But black men are just as capable. We just don't hear about it so much in February. Here's a few heavy hitters you likely haven't heard of, even if you're a true crime addict. Carl Eugene Watts, known as the Sunday Morning Slasher. Police suspected him of over 100 unsolved murders in Texas and Michigan. Henry Louis Wallace raped and strangled 11 women in the 90s in the Charlotte, North Carolina area between 1992 and 1994. Chester Turner was convicted of 14 murders in the LA area between 1987 and 1998. Lorenzo Gilliard, known as the Kansas City Strangler, was convicted of murdering 6 women between 86 and 87. And how about Clementine Barnabet, or maybe it's Barnabé, given she's Creole apparently. She's considered the first African-American serial killer, and a female at that, really breaking down those barriers early, who confessed to 35 murders between 1911 and 1912, but was only convicted of 1, but she was released in 1923, and nobody knows what happened to her. Samuel Little confessed to 93 murders, 50 of them of which had been confirmed across 19 states. They even moved this guy apparently from prison to prison to make him more easily accessible when they needed him to come out and help find bodies. Because of that, the FBI recognized him as the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. Yet I don't recall ever hearing about him before I started researching this. Side note, during that research, I found it funny how the articles, they dropped the African prefix and described these killers simply as Americans for once. I'm not saying there's zero media coverage on black serial killers. In fact, Netflix released a 2-hour special on Sam Little in 2020 after he died. But if you compare true crime podcasts, documentaries, TV series, etc., between white serial killers and black serial killers, the coverage remains more than lopsided. Why the selective storytelling? There is good reason to shy away from black serial killers in media, and it's just basic marketing. We all know many women consume true crime content. According to Pew Research, women in general are twice as likely to listen to true crime podcasts than men. Stories about victims that look like the people watching the programs drives clicks and views. Inner city black on black crime, be it serial killers or gangbangers, just doesn't resonate as much with the suburban white women watching, and that has an impact on engagement. But we can't ignore the ideology among media companies that says all woes in the black community are the white man's fault. The broader pattern nobody wants to talk about. It's not just about ignoring black serial killers. There's a crime statistic that certain people won't address. Most black victims are killed by black offenders, which is 88 to 90% when race is confirmed, according to FBI UCR data. No, we can't just write this off as gang warfare. These stats include robberies, domestic assaults, and yes, serial killers. The media and entertainment industry frame black-on-black crime as a function of systemic racism or poverty, while framing white serial killers as a result of white male rage. Violence in the black community, be it serial murder or gang warfare, is simply an inconvenient truth for establishment narratives. Final patch. Why does this matter? I'm not here to defend against a white male stereotype because I'm a white male. Stereotypes, whether negative, positive, or neutral, are typically rooted in some form of truth. There's a reason Hillary Clinton put that hot sauce in her purse. But I can hear the people already saying, okay Greg, now do school shootings. And it's true, most school shooters are white males, and we can attribute that to mismedication and mental health issues overall. And we can blame black serial killers on a society that continuously tells black people that they're victims, while encouraging abortions, divorce, fatherless homes, and violent lifestyles portrayed in things like rap music. But whether we're talking about school shooters, serial killers, or gangbangers, be they white, black, or otherwise, it's all a product of the same thing. Broken culture. Humanity has lost its way, and different groups react in different ways. By ignoring black serial killers or black crime in general, everyday Americans are led to believe that everything is the white man's fault, especially when fused with pop culture. Kabir Singh, rest in peace, cracks jokes on the stage. Paul Mooney had a bit about it as well, rest in peace again, claiming society wants to study white male serial killers while pushing for more incarceration for their black counterparts. Crime-based shows like Criminal Minds and Mindhunter also focus heavily on white offenders, further selling the stereotype. But the real losers? Black victims. For all the talk of Black Lives Matter and the patriarchy, you'd think that black-on-black crime would be a major focus. But no, that's because BLM, like-minded organizations, and their supporters couldn't give two rips about black people. They're in it for the communism. Of all the articles and videos out there about weather, bridges, and exercise being racist, there's no room for the countless black victims killed at the hands of black serial killers or criminals in general. It all comes down to this. The media, Hollywood, and academia don't want you to know that when you hear something go bump in the night, the chances of the prowler outside your bedroom window looking like me is a lot lower than you would think. Well, that's going to do it for this version of NPC Overrider. I'm your lead engineer, Greg. All references are available through the release notes or will be shortly. If you want to help me save the NPCs, join the dev team and hit subscribe and set the like button to true. Got an idea for a future release? Open up a ticket in the comment section and let's chat. But for now, we're going to grab a beer. Thanks so much for stopping by. Have a good one.